Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to a 10-round watch boxing head-to-head with a difference. This is the first time I've done this with two watches from the same brand, so there's some real sibling rivalry at play with this one. Both watches vying for the crown of the ultimate JDM daily driver, I think. Both watches are by Casio, both watches are from their Japan-only Oceanus range. Now I have made individual reviews of each one. I thought it was time they went head-to-head to settle this for once and for all. If you are thinking about entering the wonderful world of Oceanus but not sure which one of their base models to pick, this is the video for you. Plus, I'm not sure if I can justify keeping both of these, and this might help sway me one way or the other. In the blue corner, it's the Titanium Terra, the Oceanus S100. In the green corner, it's the Steel Savage, the Oceanus T200. So they may be similar in terms of their overall philosophy, but already you see the main difference between these two: different case material used in their construction. No doubt the chosen material, either steel or titanium, will both win and lose them points over the course of 10 rounds. Who will reign supreme? Let's flip the camera and find out. Alright, let's get on with it, but before we start, let's bring those thumbnails back in again. If you read them in the intro, perhaps you were forgiven for thinking I am biased towards one watch over the other watch from the very beginning. The truth is, I'm biased towards both of these watches. I'm a well-known Casio fanboy, and increasingly I'm a Casio Oceanus fanboy. I think these watches are fantastic. So let's introduce each of the two of them, starting with the S100. Or to give it its full name, the Oceanus OCW-S100-1AJF. This one I'm calling it 39mm in diameter. It has a thickness of 10.8, a lug-to-lug of 46, so it's definitely the more compact of the two. Unfortunately, lug width is not applicable today because this one has an integrated bracelet. If that's a big thing for you, perhaps that's you looking towards the 200 from the very beginning. However, this one only weighs in at 83 grams. If weight is a big thing for you, perhaps you swung back towards the S100. But don't rule out the 200, or to give it its full name, the OCW-T200S-3AJF. Now I've got the green one, which is the 3, the regular blue one is the 1AJF. This one is 41mm in diameter, it's a little bit thicker at 11mm, a little bit longer at 48 lug to lug. It has a standard 20mm lug width, and because it's stainless steel and not titanium, it does weigh 50% more, coming in at 123 grams. I say it again though, if you do buy an Oceanus, whichever one you pick up, I think you'll be very impressed by what you get for the price. Talking of price, nice segue Jody, that is our first category today. So 10 rounds. As usual though, 2 of them are double weighted, and I've chosen to double weight price today and wear today. I normally weight movement and brand, but because they're the same brand, brand does not feature, and I think that the price is going to be a key determinant today rather than the movement, because the movements are broadly similar. A watch can score a maximum of 10 points in each category, giving a potential maximum score of 120. I'll then turn that into a percentage for you down the bottom. So then price, what does each watch score in this first double weighted, therefore all important category? Well, I reckon the S100 gets an 8 double to 16. The T200 though takes an early lead, it gets a 9 double to 18. Now because these are JDM watches, you are buying them from Japan through somewhere like Seiya perhaps. No association, no affiliation. They charge $429 for the S100, but only $382 for the T200. However, eBay seems like the place to go for these. I will leave links in the description of the video. $372 was the best price I could find on the S100. Not as good as the $335 I found for the blue dialed T200, which is a little bit cheaper. If you want a green one like me, that'll sting you more, $354. Now I appreciate the 100 is made of titanium, but I still think the $40 to $50 discount that you get with a 200 is worth an extra point. On to movement. Now the movements in these two watches are fairly similar, but there are some differences. Enough to score the 200, 1 extra point again. 7 for the 100, 8 for the 200. So the 100 features a module 5235, tough solar and multi-band 6 radio controlled. If you live in a region that gets the atomic clock signal, in theory you need never set this watch. It also has a perpetual calendar. The thing will just run for years and years and years. If you don't live in a region that has the atomic clock signal like I do down in Australia, that multi-band 6 is rather lost on you, unfortunately. There are enough numerals on the dial though to make this one a little bit easier if you're adjusting it manually. And if you watched my individual review of this watch, you know this one is pretty much to the second accurate over the last 3 months. A great choice therefore for a daily, 7 out of 10. The movement in the 200 is a slightly newer 5596, again tough solar multi-band 6, broadly similar set of specifications, but this one has the added benefit of Bluetooth. As you can see, there are less markings on the dial to help you adjust the movement because all of that is done on a Bluetooth app. That means that poor buggers like me in the southern hemisphere that don't get the atomic clock signal, their watches are still 100% accurate because it connects 4 times a day to their mobile phones. That to me is worth an extra point, 8 out of 10. Alright, moving on to case finishing then. One of the reasons why I really like this Oceanus range is because I think the cases are finished exceptionally well for the cash, so you can expect some high scores here. And indeed, it's an 8 for the titanium 100, but a 9 for the stainless steel 200. So less than $400, titanium, and finished like this. Very, very nice indeed. Beautiful brush surfaces, lovely high polishes, fine transitions between the two, signed crown, the buttons are lovely, great finishing on those too. There's a 2-stage bezel, high polished at the top, high polished at the sides. This level of finish would be exceptional if it was stainless steel. It's even more exceptional to find a budget watch in titanium looking this good, 8 out of 10. But to me, the 200 just edges the 100 by a single point here. Stainless steel is a little bit easier to work with, and I think that is reflected in how gorgeous this level of finish is. I described it as the $500 watch, finished like a $5,000 watch, and I stand by that 100%. It is just beautiful. Lustrous high polish, super fine brushing, 3 different finishes to that bezel. Even the single button and the crown both have 2 different finishes to them. Exceptional for the price they're charging, 9 out of 10. Alright, bracelets. I'm not going to factor into the scores that the S100 has an integrated bracelet. I'll leave that up to you to determine whether it's a deal maker or a deal breaker. There is a little difference between the two, I think. 7 for the 100, again, the 200 a little better finished, 8 out of 10. Not that there's anything wrong with the finish on the bracelet of the 100, I promise you. There's a satinized brushing to the mid links, slightly different to the outer links. There's a little high polish upper edge surface to them. Both of these bracelets have a pin and collar system, by the way. Both of them have slightly disappointing clasps. That's why this one only gets a 7 and not a higher score. Only one hole of micro adjust, however, forcing you to wearing these watches either a little bit tighter or a little bit looser than perhaps you'd have wanted to. It's still a good bracelet, this one, which is just as well because you're stuck with it, 7 out of 10. But again, much like the case, I think the 200's bracelet, perhaps because it's stainless steel, it's a little bit easier to work with, is just a little bit better finished. Again, there's a mixed finish, mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. Again, there's a slightly disappointing lack of micro adjustment on the clasp, but the 200 does at least come with half links, so your chances of getting a better fit are higher with the 200 than they are with the 100. Alright, next category, water resistance. We're not going to be here long, I promise you. They both have the same 100 meters, they both score a 7. Now that's 100 meters without the aid of a screw down crown. Screw down crown would have got them an 8, 200 meters would have got them a 9 or a 10, but really, practically speaking, that is plenty for an everyday watch. And they both feature plenty of lume, I think, for everyday watches as well. But once more, the 200s is just a little bit better and it scores an extra point once again. Both watches feature Casio's own proprietary lume. They call it Neo Bright. This lume features the same ice blue glow as you would normally find on Superluminova BGW9. You can see on the left there the 100 has a lumed second hand, something that the 200 lacks. However, when I turn the speed up on these, you can see that the 200's indices hang on better than the 100's. The 200 featured in a recent installment of the Lume Wars series and it did okay for itself. Both watches though feature all-night lume capabilities, hence the strong scores, but at the end of the 20 minutes you can see the 200 is just a little bit brighter, particularly on the indices, hence the extra point. Okay, moving on to the next category, crystal. Both watches feature sapphire crystals. The S100 is a double domed, the S200 is flat. You would normally expect the extra points to go to the domed, but not today. Once again, it goes to the 200, but both crystals score very, very strongly. Casio claim 99% clarity on the sapphire they use, and who am I to argue with them? I've now looked at 4 Oceanus and the crystal has been a standout feature on all of them. You see that little blue tinge here? That's a coloured accent ring they put around the edge of the crystal. Just glorious. This one only gets an 8 though because you do get a little bit of flecto from a lot of angles, to be honest. Maybe they could have done with a touch more AR, and it smudges really easily. And the flat sapphire crystal on the T200 is one of the best pieces of flat crystal I have seen, if not the best piece of flat sapphire. Again, this is a watch costing under $350 if you pick one up on eBay. The clarity is magnificent, which means you get to admire those shiny silver hands and indices all the better. Now, you always get a bit of bounce back with flat sapphire, but I believe there's a bit more anti-reflective undercoating than on the dome crystal on the 100. From certain angles, it doesn't look like there's glass covering this dial at all. Again, just glorious for a budget watch. Moving on to dial and hands, a pattern is clearly emerging here. High scores for both watches, but generally the 200 edges it by a point. Can the 100 pull some points back here? No. Again, it is edged by a point. 7 for the 100, 8 for the 200. Not that there's anything wrong with the dial and hand set on the 100, I just think the 200 is a little bit cleaner. Blue is the colour here though. There's a blue second hand, there's a blue frame around the date at 3, and there are blue surrounds to those indices. Again, all matching that blue accent ring in the sapphire crystal. If I am going to complain about these Oceanus models, the finish on the hands is always a little bit rougher than it might be, but still nicer than the vast majority of watches costing a lot more than this. It's not going to win any design awards, but it's not a dial you'll tire of looking at, which is good for a daily. 7 out of 10. But again, the 200 just has the edge over the 100, and it gets that extra point because of those cantilevered indices. They're attached to the outer chapter ring, and they therefore float across the dial. You get a lovely shadow effect from this one, especially when you view it from an angle like this. There's also a bit less dial text for an overall cleaner look. 8 out of 10. But as I said in the intro, this is the battle of the JDM daily drivers. If you're wearing a watch as a daily, wear, comfort, very important, hence the double weight, and the S100 pulls back some points. It gets a super strong 9 double to 18, the 200 still okay, but only a 7 double to 14. The Oceanus 100 is flat out one of the most comfortable watches I have ever worn. Good size for me at 39, it's that little bit smaller, and under 85 grams, full metal bracelet, less than 85 grams, I think it's the lightest watch on a bracelet that I've seen. Now, as discussed, there isn't a whole heap of adjustment available, so you're really obliged to wear this one loose, but because the watch is so light, that's not going to be an issue. The case back's comfortable, lovely machining on the case, semi-guarded crowns as well. Overall, a pleasure to wear, 9 out of 10. There's not that much wrong with the 200, to be honest. It is obviously 50% heavier because it's made of stainless steel, and it still has the same problems with a lack of micro adjustment. I would therefore probably want to wear this 200 a little bit tighter than I am obliged to because of that. And at 41mm, perhaps it's 1mm larger than I would have liked it as well. I think bezel-less three-handers begin to look slightly ungainly once they go much beyond 40, at least on my average size wrist anyway. But it's still pretty good, 7 out of 10. Alright, final category before we get to the totals then, and it's X Factor. Bit of a Jody's choice really. Do either of these watches have a little bit of something extra, something that I feel hasn't been emphasised enough in the scores? I'm going to give the X Factor award to the S100 here, 8 out of 10, because it is titanium. But because the 100 is so well finished, you can't really tell by looking at it that it's titanium. It doesn't look all that different from the 200 next to it. But you can definitely tell it's Ti when it's on wrist. I really appreciate that lack of weight, hence the 8. But the T200 scores a 7 because of that Bluetooth link. It is super easy to set and adjust because of that Bluetooth app on your phone. It's a good app, it's very reliable, it's intuitive and easy to operate. And it gives you live status updates as to how often the watch has linked to your phone for timing updates, and also what the status of the charge is, which is great to see as well, something that isn't available on the 100. Right then, on to the final scores. Drum roll, please. Two very strong scores today, 93 for the S100 and 96 for the S200. Very, very close. Now, if I break that down into percentage terms, 77.5 for the 100, 80%, and 8 out of 10 therefore for the 200. The S100 may be an older model, they've now been making this one for a decade. You can tell with the slightly older movement, but it's still a great choice if you do want to pick up your first Oceanus. The fact that it has an integrated bracelet isn't a deal breaker for me because the bracelet they provide is a pretty good one, and it's just so damn light and so damn comfortable, it makes a strong case for itself as a set and forget daily wear watch. Stylistically though, it's a little bit fussier, perhaps not quite as sharp and clean as the 200. Maybe it's beginning to show its age a little bit, but it's still an awesome watch for the price. But it's the 200 that takes the victory today. Look, if it was me, I would prefer the 200 but 1mm smaller and made of titanium. Come on Casio, make my dreams come true. But until that time, this is going to be a long-standing and permanent part of my personal collection. It is far nicer than it has any right to be given the price they're charging for it. And the time represented on the dial by those three hands is the time. The actual time. And surely that's kind of the point of wearing a watch, isn't it? So there you have it. No losers today, but there is a winner. It's the T200. If you've made it this far, you're clearly keen on the Oceanus range. Why not do yourself a favour and watch the full reviews of the 100 and the 200. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you again in a future video.